looking to connect a region of over 600 million bridges between our lands.
Good evening, I'm Alma Angeles, and you're watching ASEAN in Focus on tonight's headlines. President Marcos Jr. took a trip down memory lane as he recalled his first visit to China as a teenager in 1974, and he reflected on how far both countries have come in terms of deepening their relations. Malaysia's new Prime Minister met with Indonesia's president today on his first foreign trip after winning a confidence vote and cementing his mandate last month following an inconclusive election. And President Marcos today reiterated his vow to continue upgrading the country's transport system to relieve commuters of their daily ordeal due to traffic congestion. And former Miss Universe Olivia Culpo and television host Jenny Mai Jenkins are confirmed to be the new hosts of Miss Universe 2022. And former Miss Philippines Universe will be the backstage commentator, Catriona Gray, for this year's 71st pageant. President Marcos Jr. took a trip down memory lane as he recalled his first visit to China as a teenager in 1974 and reflected on how far both countries have come in terms of deepening their relations. In his recent vlog, President Marcos said he was happy about how he and his mother, former First Lady Imelda Marcos, had a chance to interact with and have their photo taken with former Chinese revolutionary leader Mao Zedong or Mao Zedong in 1974. Let's listen in.
Laking project na ginagawa nila. Napakalaking bagay dahil napuntahan pa namin at nakilala namin si Chairman Mao Zedong. Pagpunta nga namin, biglaan at very secret. Nasa ibang lugar kami, meron kaming tinitignan at biglang binulungan yung mother ko. Nung natapos na yung presentation na pinapanood namin, tinawag niya ako. Sabi niya, makikipagkita raw tayo kay Chairman Mao. Ganun ba? Sabi ko, naku, napakalaking karangalan niya. Hindi pangkaraniwan na nakakabisita sa kanya. Sabi nila, aalis tayo kaagad. May nag-aantay na eroplano. Sumakay kami ng eroplano. Hindi namin alam kung saan kami dadalhin. Kaya tinitignan namin sa inyong araw, saan ang direksyon namin, ilang oras tayo nagbiyahe, anong takbo ng eroplano. Siguro bandarito tayo naglanding. Nasa labas lang ng Beijing ang pinuntahan namin. Isang malaking parang compound. Doon namin nakilala si Chairman Mao. Hanggang ngayon, so many years later, mag-50 years na, hindi ko pa rin makalimutan, hindi pa rin ako makapaniwala na nandun ako, tinitingnan ko si Chairman Mao Zedong. Sabi ko, napakaswerte ko naman masyadong bata. Itong napakalaking bagay sa gitna ng Pilipinas at saka sa China ay nasama ako. Nagkasundo sila kagad ng mother ko dahil sabi ng mother ko, you are a great leader that is recognized around the world. Sabi niya, no, I'm not a leader, I'm only a teacher. Sabi nung mother ko, me also, I am a teacher. I started my life as a teacher. Yun, mula noon, nagkasundo na sila. Meron kaming picture kasama si Chairman, kaming tatlo, yung mother ko, si Chairman, at saka ako. Di tuwan-tuwa ako dahil may picture ako kay Chairman Mao. Nung lumabas sa international press, tinanggal na ako. Kaya masama yung loob ko kasi silang dalawa lang ni Chairman Mao. Nung riniklamo ko sa Chinese Embassy minsan, hinanap nila yung picture, pinadala na ako ng kopya nung tatlo na kami na kompleto. At kagabi, si President Xi ay binigyan din ako ulit ng isang kopya nung picture na yon. Because when it came out in the international news, they took me out. Halos 50 taon nang nakalipas nung unang binuksan ng China ang kanilang pintuan para sa pakikipagkaibigan sa ating bansang Pilipinas. Naging bahagi ako kahit papano ng makasaysayang pangyayari ngayon. Kasama ang aking ina ay nasimulan ang ating pakikipag-ugnayan sa iba't ibang larangan. Mula sa kalakalan, kultura, turismo at marami pang iba. Ang ating relasyon sa China ay maituturing na napakahalagang bahagi ng ating lipunan at ng ating kasaysayan.
President Marcos secured 22.8 billion US dollars in investment pledges from Chinese investors during his state visit to China. Aside from these pledges, the President and President Xi also agreed to establish a direct communications line on concerns related to the South China Sea in the West Philippine Sea to prevent any miscommunication between the two countries. He also vowed that the Philippines would value Philippine-China relations even more than it did over 40 decades ago. In tonight's other news, Thai authorities granted Chinese travelers the green light to enter the kingdom without pre-departure coronavirus tests, with hopes their return will be a shot in the arm for the country's tourism sector recovery. China has experienced a surge in infection rates, and its hospitals and crematoriums have been inundated after Beijing last month wound back years of tight restrictions.
ถ้าประเทศใดก็ตามที่ดีกว่า PCR หรือก็ไม่ได้ประเทศดีกว่าที่ดีนะครับประเทศใดก็ตามที่ดีกว่า PCR ก็จะต้องมีนักท่องเที่ยวก็จะต้องมีนะครับผมว่าตรงนี้เป็นการปฏิบัติที่เข้าถึงเป็นธรรมต่อทั้งสองประเทศประเทศรัฐนักท่องเที่ยวแล้วก็ประเทศเป็นทาง
about that because I think everywhere, every tourist, every nationality now, COVID become one of the normal situation that I think Thailand can accept that we have not required anything from cluster. We have not worry much about the cluster from Chinese tourists.
The United States, Canada, Japan, and France are among the countries that have imposed new rules requiring travelers from China to provide negative COVID tests as concerns grow over the spike in cases. China was the largest source of foreign tourists for Thailand before the pandemic, with almost 11 million arrivals in 2019, according to government data. Tourism accounted for nearly 20% of national income before the pandemic, and tough border restrictions at the height of the health crisis took a toll on hotels, restaurants, and tour operators across the country. The Tourism Authority of Thailand said they expect about 60,000 Chinese nationals to enter Thailand this month, and for numbers to steadily rise. Amid a reported surge in COVID infections in China, coronavirus experts have been meeting at the UN Health Agency to discuss the next steps. In Geneva, a spokesperson for the WHO confirmed to journalists in Geneva that Chinese scientists had been invited to participate in a meeting of the Technical Advisory Group on COVID-19. Rosel Ferria reports from Washington, D.C.
The World Health Organization and China discussed the current surge in COVID-19 cases. WHO says the high-level meeting is to offer the health agency's expertise and further support to the country. China's National Health Commission and the National Disease Control and Prevention Administration provide updates on the country's strategy and actions concerning the surge. These include areas in epidemiology, monitoring of variants, vaccinations, clinical care, communication, research, and development. WHO reiterates the importance of vaccination and boosters to protect against severe disease and death for people at higher risk. The health organization calls on China to strengthen viral sequencing, clinical management, and impact assessment. It also expresses willingness to provide support in these areas, as well as on risk communications on vaccination to counter hesitancy. WHO underscores the importance of monitoring and the timely publication of data. This is to help China and the global community to formulate accurate risk assessments and to inform effective responses. China's steep rise in infections comes after Beijing abruptly lifts years of hardline restrictions last month. At present, hospitals and crematoriums are overwhelmed with patients and casualties. Rosel Ferria, Washington, D.C., Eagle News. We live in extraordinary times.
Reduced working hours and more flexible working time arrangements, such as those used during the COVID crisis, can benefit economies, enterprises, and workers, and lay the ground for a better and more healthy work-life balance. That according to a new ILO report. Let's listen in.
A new report issued today by the International Labour Organization shows that the COVID-19 crisis measures yielded powerful new evidence that giving workers more flexibility in how, where, and when they work can be positive for both them and for businesses. Conversely, restricting flexibility brings substantial costs, including increased staff turnover.
The report, Working Time and Work-Life Balance Around the World, looks at the two main aspects of working time, working hours, and working time arrangements, also called work schedules, and the effects of both on business performance and workers' work-life balance. It includes a range of new statistics covering hours of work, both before and during the COVID crisis. The study, which is the first to focus on work-life balance, found that a substantial portion of the global workforce is working either long or short hours when compared to a standard 8-hour day, 40-hour working week. More than 1/3 of all workers are regularly working more than 48 hours per week, while a fifth of the global workforce is working short or part-time hours of less than 35 per week. Informal economy workers are more likely to have long or short hours. In other news, Nate Thayer, the larger-than-life American freelance journalist who scored a massive scoop with his 1997 interview with Pol Pot, the genocidal leader of Cambodia's Khmer Rouge, has died at 62, according to his family on Wednesday. Take a look. Mr. Thayer was discovered dead by his brother, Rob Thayer, at his Falmouth, Massachusetts home on Tuesday. Nate Thayer spent years reporting on Cambodian politics and society, including the Khmer Rouge, the brutal communist regime that left more than 1 million people dead between 1975 and 79. His work paid off in 1997 when he sent a cryptic message to Far Eastern Economic Review editor Nayan Chanda that he would interview Uncle, or Pol Pot, whom no journalist had met for 2 decades. From Thailand, Thayer slipped into Pol Pot's An Long Veng jungle redoubt, beating out a New York Times team that had arrived near the border thinking they would see the shadowy Cambodian. Days later, he broke the story in the Far Eastern Economic Review. Pol Pot, blamed for murdering over 1 million people, told him, quote, "Am I a savage person? My conscience is clear," unquote. A year later, Thayer scooped others with Pol Pot's death in an interview with the one-legged Khmer Rouge army commander and Pol Pot rival Tam Mok. The son of a former U.S. ambassador to Singapore, Mr. Thayer spent most of his career focused on Asia, reporting from combat situations like the Myanmar border and investigating North Korea. He also traveled to Iraq to report on the 2003 U.S. invasion. In tonight's other news, Malaysia's new Prime Minister met with Indonesia's president today on his first foreign trip after winning a confidence vote and cementing his mandate last month following an inconclusive election. He met Indonesian President Joko Widodo for talks at a presidential palace in Bogor, south of capital Jakarta, where they were due to speak later. The pair were to discuss global and regional issues, including trade, the palm oil industry, border disputes, and the situation in Kuwait, Myanmar, according to Malaysia's foreign ministry in a statement. The Indonesian leader greeted Anwar before driving him around the palace's gardens in an electric buggy ahead of the talks. It is customary that the first foreign visit of a new Malaysian premier takes place in neighboring Indonesia, which counts Kuala Lumpur as its 5th biggest export market. Indonesia, the world's 3rd largest democracy this year, holds the chairmanship of the ASEAN group of Southeast Asian nations, in which junta-led Myanmar remains a member and will host a leader summit in November. Anwar Ibrahim, a longtime opposition leader, was sworn in as the country's 10th prime minister on November 24 to head a unity government in a shaky alliance with the graft-tainted party of his former political rivals. In other news, world food prices declined for the 9th consecutive month in December. Though many commodities are still at record highs, the Food and Agricultural Organization reported Friday, the UN agency has published its latest food price index, or FFPI, which tracks the monthly international prices of cereals, vegetable oil, dairy meat, and sugar. Take a look.
The FAO, reported today the index for world food prices dipped for the ninth consecutive month in December of last year, declined by 1.9% from the previous month. FAO reiterates that calmer food commodity prices are welcome after 2 extremely volatile years. Our colleagues in Rome stress that the importance of remaining vigilant and keeping a strong focus on mitigating global food insecurity, given that world food prices remain at elevated levels, with many staples near record highs, with prices of rice increasing. FAO warns that there's still many risks associated with future supplies.
The lower FFPI in December was led by a decrease in the vegetable price index, which dropped 6.7% from the previous month, reaching its lowest level since February 2021. According to the spokesperson, FAO warns that there are still many risks associated with future supplies. The FAO Food Price Index, or FFPI, is a measure of the monthly change in international prices of a basket of food commodities. A wooden boat carrying 184 Rohingya refugees, a majority of them women and children, landed in Indonesia's western coast on Sunday. The ship is the 5th boat carrying Rohingya refugees to land in Indonesia since November, according to authorities. Here's local police chief Fahmi Irwan Ramle.
Adapun jumlah keseluruhan pengungsi sudah kita hitung bersama tadi sebanyak 184 orang dengan rincian laki-laki dewasa 69 orang, wanita dewasa 75 orang, kemudian anak-anak 40 orang.
Now, he added that the refugees will be transferred to a local government facility. According to one of the passengers, the boat departed Bangladesh on December 10. Thousands of the mostly Muslim Rohingya, heavily persecuted in Myanmar, risk their lives each year on long and expensive sea journeys, often in poor quality boats, in an attempt to reach Malaysia or Indonesia. Around 1 million Rohingya were estimated to be living in refugee camps in Bangladesh after they fled persecution in neighboring Myanmar in 2017. 4 vessels carrying Rohingya refugees have already landed in Indonesia in November and December last year, carrying a total of more than 400 passengers. More than 2,000 Rohingya are believed to have attempted the risky journey in 2022, according to the UN Refugee Agency, UNHCR, at levels similar to 2020. The agency estimated nearly 200 Rohingya have died or remain missing after attempting hazardous sea crossings last year. But the figure could rise after relatives of around 180 Rohingya refugees that were on another vessel drifting at sea for weeks lost contact and were feared dead. The UNHCR could not confirm their deaths, but spokesman Babar Balok said if true, it would mark 2022 the deadliest year for Rohingya crossings since 2013 and 2014, when more than 900 and 700 were reported dead or missing, respectively. President Marcos today reiterated his vow to continue upgrading the country's transport system to relieve commuters of their daily ordeal due to traffic congestion. President Marcos said developments on the country's first subway system in the country allow Filipinos to look forward to better days, as it would also spur economic development and job creation. Take a look. Now, he acknowledged the joint venture of Filipino and Japanese companies for working with the Philippine government on the Metro Manila Subway Project's contract package 101 and expressed hope it would be completed on time. The president likewise sought their continued patience, trust, and support, especially as big-ticket projects take years to complete. The 488.48 billion peso Metro Manila Subway will stretch about 33 kilometers across 7 cities from Valenzuela City to Pasay City and will be able to serve over 519,000 passengers daily once completed. The transport project is also expected to generate 18,000 jobs and boost the economic activities of communities in Metro Manila. Former Miss Universe Olivia Galpo and television host Ginny Mai Jenkins were confirmed to be the new hosts of Miss Universe 2022, and former Miss Philippines Catriona Gray will be the backstage commentator for this year's 71st pageantry. Take a look. Now, this will be Catriona's first time in a hosting capacity at Miss Universe, and she will be hosting alongside Emmy Award winner and American Ninja Warrior co-host Zuri Hall. Catriona shared the news on her Instagram account, posting a couple of photos while also writing in caption that her role is now official. This year's Miss Universe pageant will be held in New Orleans on January 15 Manila time. A total of 86 candidates will be vying for the crown. The pageant's organizers announced in December that they will replace Steve Harvey. Steve Harvey has been hosting Miss Universe since 2015 as they try to make sure they lead, quote, with a female lens. As my usual habit, I'd like to end the day on a positive note. Let's encourage and build each other up so that no one is left behind. And that's it for tonight's broadcast of ASEAN in Focus. I'm Alma Angeles. Stay in the news because we live in extraordinary times. Good night.